Greetings to my viewers. In this video, I would like to talk about my 4 months experiences with the newest generation of DxO Photolab and a few words about the Viewpoint 5, which also came out in October. So basically, since October, we have these programs, and I've been using them on a daily basis. And I think that it may be useful for others if I share my experiences with these excellent and revolutionary programs. Well, before I get to the details of the program, and I will show on the screen how I edit with the help of DxO Photolab 8 and Viewpoint 5, I'd like to say a few words about my personal history with DxO Photolab. I started using this program when I was looking for a good RAW editor around 2017, as far as I remember, when I shifted to the Micro Four Thirds system, bought my first Lumix camera. Ever since I accumulated my arsenal of Lumix and Olympus cameras, but I was sticking to the Micro Four Thirds system. The point is that DxO, the development of the DxO Photolab, especially the noise reduction module, has been always strengthened and reconfirmed my belief in the Micro Four Thirds system, because it has been so perfect in noise reduction, along other many interesting and useful features, that basically today I don't think that it is a real disadvantage to use Micro Four Thirds as opposed to APS-C or full frame. I'm not suggesting that the two systems or the three systems are exactly the same good. Some of them are better for other purposes than the others. However, this combo of the Micro Four Thirds system and the DxO Photolab has been perfectly satisfactory for my photographic needs. I'm an enthusiast photographer from Hungary. I've already had 5 or 6 individual exhibitions, and my main areas of photography are concerts, especially jazz musicians, which is fairly low light, so actually the Micro Four Thirds system was taken to the test in these environmental situations. I'm also doing travel and architectural photography and nature photography. So these are the 3 areas in which I very beneficially use not only the Micro Four Thirds cameras and lenses, but also DxO Photolab. And now let's turn to the details. Well, let's see how will Photolab 8 work on some of my images which I prepared in advance. So first of all, we are booting on the program, which comes quite quickly, and I will have to look for the folder which I prepared in the photo library. I'm not going to give all the details of the program because probably those who watch this video already know by and large the workings of Photolab. Let me just mention that there are 2 main modules. One is the photo library, which is a kind of catalog in which you can tag photographs, give them stars, give them keywords and other functions. Actually, I don't really use this function because I arrange my photos simply on the hard drive according to themes and topics and dates, and usually I use a Fastone image viewer for that purpose. But anyway, in photo library you have the structure of my hard drive, and we are looking for the proper folder. This is it, and there are a couple of images you can see which I'm going to edit now using Photolab 8 and Viewpoint 5. These are the 2 new versions which I would like to comment on. The general arrangement of the editing window of Photolab is under the label Customize. This is a very flexible screen, so you can actually reshape it, highlight or hide certain functions. Generally, on the right side are the various editing windows, and actually Photolab comes under these 5-6 labels, which are light, color, detail, geometry. That's a kind of watermark and effects function, and finally local adjustments, which are very, very important in Photolab, and Photolab 8 brings some new features to that possibility as well. So that's on the right side, and on the left side you can choose whichever functions you want to highlight. I usually want the metadata, the advanced history. Advanced history works like in Photoshop, that you can go backwards step by step and kind of choose at which point you want to redo the editing. And the preset editor. The preset editor is very, very important. Basically, it helps you a lot, partly because Photolab comes with factory presets, which I usually don't use. But you can make your own presets, adjusting it to your taste, to your type of camera, and other features. And this is what I use. You already know that I work on the Micro Four Thirds system with an OM camera and several Lumix cameras. So among my presets, you have a choice for those. Okay, at this point I'm going to start the screen recording, and you will see all the details which I show. Screen recording has just started, and once again I can show that on the left side you have the presets and the metadata, on the right side you have the various editing functions. And already here is my first photograph, which had been edited before, so I have to go to reset and basically start from the original raw file. And since it was made with a Lumix G9 Mark II camera, I go to the Lumix presets and choose for the first version. Okay, what does it do? In the light module, you can choose highlights, shadows. Very easily I can crank it up or down, so I can still fix a little bit that. Highlights can be toned down or toned up, but it's more or less okay as it is. A very important function is the Clear View Plus function, where you can simply make the details much more enhanced, but we don't need that very much. Contrast, micro contrast is also very important. There is a tone curve. A tone curve is very interesting, and it has a new function, namely the tone picker. So when you choose the tone picker and go on a particular tone, click, and you can move the mouse up or down, that is the arrows up or down, and you will see that exactly that tone which you have chosen, what you have picked, can be darkened or lightened. So that's a fine function, but of course there are other ways, sometimes a little bit more complicated to make that. Then we move to the color function, and I would like to make these two flags a little bit shining out. So what I can do here, I can use the local adjustments. Local adjustments give you different shapes, so you can make a horizontal selection or a circular selection, and this time I will try the circular selection, which is something like here. And I can try various things. For example, I can go to the color fine-tuning, and I can simply increase the saturation, and you can see that the flags are much more saturated now, even if I give some vibrance. That's perfectly serves my purpose. Another possibility would be if I chose something else within the local adjustments. There is something like the hue picker or hue mask. That's a new feature in Photolab 8. Some people praise it. Honestly speaking, I haven't really found it that useful, but let's give it a try for the red color. So I will pick the red here, and you see that actually the red color is quite well selected. It doesn't work always that well. I can use these sliders to change the shade, and you see that the more wide gamut I choose, the more elements are highlighted. This way it's only the flag if I move it more to the violet color. Okay, and then I can do the same. Simply I can go and play with the saturation. So here you have more saturation or less saturation. And of course I could do exactly the same with the yellow flag, but presently I'm quite satisfied with that. If I want to enhance the clouds, I stay with the local adjustments, and local adjustments are kind of listed in this window, the control points. I can ask for a new control point, and this time it will be a kind of horizontal selection, and the red will show the areas which will be affected. And if I choose Clear View Plus, I can very much enhance the clouds up there. Okay, the last window is the detail, and here is one of the greatest novelty of Photolab. Namely, here you have the various noise reduction modules or filters, and this D prime XD XD2 is the newest one. And some people debate on the internet saying that it's too much noise reduction. Some people say it's not really better than Photolab 7. My opinion is that this is a perfect, absolutely superbly working noise reduction. Fairly enhanced, can be fairly strong, but still never loses the details and perfectly, beautifully handles noise, which is especially important for me because in the Micro Four Thirds system there is more noise than in full frame photographs. So I think that this function basically saves and removes the greatest criticisms of the Micro Four Thirds system. So I will keep it on the prime XD XD2 mode, and we can give a try. How does it look? So I export it. Again, there are different presets for exports. Usually I choose a 3555 longest side as a kind of sufficient for my purposes, but of course I could keep the whole 25 megapixel cut of the original photograph of the G9 Mark II. So I export it, and it goes quite quickly. You can see it here. It will show how the rendering is going on, and since I have a dedicated and a fairly strong NVIDIA graphic card, it goes really quickly. Basically it's about 8 seconds that a rendering goes with this very strong noise reduction. Other machines without a graphic card, of course, is much slower. I have a fairly new laptop which has the newest E9 Intel processor without a separate graphics card, and on that it takes about 15-20 seconds for the rendering, so it's considerably slower than on this machine, which otherwise is not a terribly new. It's about a 4-year-old machine with an E5 Intel processor, but the graphics card, the NVIDIA graphics card, makes the wonder. Let's have a look at it. I go back to Fastone image viewer. This is my favorite viewer, and immediately I can see the version. So here is the original and here is the edited version. Let's have a look at. Much sharper, very nicely rendered. I don't think anything else is really needed to be done. Of course, some tweaking and detail stuff could be still done on that, but as a first round, I'm absolutely satisfied with it. So we move to the next picture, and I will try to speed up a little bit. This is, as you can see, a foggy, hilly landscape with a little town in the valley. If you look at it, it's with 100 ISO, so one shouldn't expect much noise on that. But anyway, I will leave the DxT2 noise reduction filter. Going over to Photolab 8, again I reset it because it's already edited and the program keeps it in its memory. So if we start from scratch, again I go to a Lumix filter. There are various versions, so I will just check which would look better. Here's another one which I might use. It's a little more faded. Or another filter would make it lighter, but I think I go back to the standard Lumix filter, which I actually created as my own preset. And what we see that the toning is fairly good, but colors are too faded. So let's do something with the colors. First of all, I can give saturation and vibrance. The reds are still a little bit faded. So in this case, I can do various things in Photolab. Either I pick the red color, and everything which is red on the picture can be changed with the saturation filter. You can see how nicely they are getting more and more red. Or the luminance, which will make it lighter or darker. So that's one possibility. Another possibility would be using the local adjustments, and I can do the same with the local adjustments. I can select, for example, with the hue picker, the hue mask, the red color, and let's see what happens. Roofs are nicely selected, not all of them, and we can give some tries. Here it's too much, obviously, too wide range of colors. Here almost nothing, so I move it more towards the red. And I can play with it as much as I want or can. And then simply I go back to choosing saturation. And you see I crank it up, so the roofs are more red. Honestly speaking, the first version seemed to be simpler and quicker when on the whole picture I just selected the red rather than this hue mask. But in other cases the hue mask can be pretty useful. The rendering of the fog, I think, is pretty nice. I don't think I need to do anything with that. I'd like to enhance a little bit these trees in the foreground to give more structure to them. So again, I can use the local adjustment. With this plus, I start a new local adjustment, and I will go back to the circular one, which I like very much. Here, for example, I choose this tree, and I can crank up the clear view. As I do it, it's more and more contrasted. I can change the white balance, which is not really necessary, but I could do that, you see. So I think we just stay more or less normal. I can change the saturation too much, and I can also enhance the sharpness, and I think that a little bit of more sharpness may be useful here, so I change a little bit the sharpness. Now I have a kind of concocted local adjustment here, and if I click wherever on the picture, exactly the same changes will be made in that new circle. So I'll do it here, and you see immediately it's lighter, and I can also change the area very easily where I want to change these colors or whatever other settings. I guess that, again, as a first round, it's fairly good, so I start exporting it. And again, I use the noise reduction filter with the same size as I mentioned before. So you can look at here how quickly the green covers that little thumbnail or whatever logo, and already it's ready. So that was a very quick rendering. And back to fast on image viewer, let's see what we have done. Certainly there's a huge difference between the two pictures. Again, this is just a quick editing. I don't want to dive into various details, but you can see that DxO Photolab 8 works perfectly. No noise. If you look at the fog, I can even enlarge the image. Everything is sharp, everything is nice. What we did with the trees, it's really very convincing. All right, let's move to the next one. This is more challenging because it's 6400 ISO, so that's a fairly high ISO for the Micro Four Thirds system. But both the camera G9 Mark II and Photolab 8 can perfectly handle it. So we move over to the program. Again, I reset it, and let's see what automatically the program does with this picture. Don't forget that this is a preset, so already certain functions, for example, the shadows and highlights, I already fixed to +8 and -15 for the highlights. It's extremely helpful because I don't have to do it all the time. I just use the preset which I myself created. Actually, I'm not sure what else could I do with it. The noise reduction will do the job. Lens softness compensation, maybe the details can be a little bit even more enhanced. I like to have the sharpness quite high, and if it's too high, then later on I can reduce it. Geometry is okay, there is nothing to do there. We don't want to crop anything. There is a very good horizon and crop tool, but we don't need those. And no local adjustment is needed as far as I see, so let's just do quickly the rendering. Again, here you can see how quickly it goes. Basically 5-6 seconds and it's ready. So again, in fast on image viewer, we can look at the improvements from the raw file. Here it is. I think it's pretty good. Very well can be seen the inscriptions on this medieval fresco. All the details are perfectly done. Here you have the devil, quite frightening. You can see the structure of the paint. This is a fresco, so basically it's a wall painting. And exposure, contrast, everything seems to be okay. Of course, if somebody is a perfectionist, then you can go to Photoshop, further enhance it, or you can go to Topaz Labs and make a little bit of further noise reduction or something like this. But I think, and that's the point, that Photolab 8 in the first round perfectly renders the raw file into a very attractive JPEG file. And I didn't even go to the TIFF options and other more complicated steps. Next picture would be another relatively high ISO. It's a 2500 ISO picture shot in a royal garden in Hungary with Christmas lights. So let's see what would Photolab do kind of automatically with it using one of my presets. Again, I reset the picture, And one possibility is the standard preset, which is not bad. Another possibility would be when there is no correction, only optical correction. It's a little darker. Well, basically I have to choose between these, and let's start some enhancing with that. So let's go to the light module, and I think that's a little bit, the highlights can be still turned down to 25 or even 30, but certainly the midtones can go up a little bit, and the shadows again up to 12, and blacks are on +3. Of course I could make it much lighter, but then too much noise appears, so I just go back to 3 as it was, or yeah, let's go back to +3. Yes, contrast, everything else is okay. If we want to play with the tone picker, then we can try that. If I go to this darkest part and start lifting it or making it darker, so that's another possibility. It's a new possibility in Photolab 8, as I mentioned. Maybe a bit more color to some areas, but not every area, because these lights are quite alright, but the sky could be both bluer and more orange, and in that case, if I don't want to change the lower part, I have to go to local adjustments. And among the local adjustments, I choose this horizontal filter. I just check what is the official name for that. Control line is the name, and I can kind of cover this area. There are interesting chroma and luma possibilities with this selection, which is here on these two sliders. If I change them, the selection will be thicker or thinner, you see. So I have to find the proper setting to more or less covering everything what I want. And then I go to the color change. So I think that the orange could be saturated, and look at here, and the clouds, very nicely those colors come out. And I also want to enhance the blues, so again I give saturation to those, and here I kind of fix it. We have the compare function, and you can see the changes which I've made. Okay, I could do many other things, but let's just see what's the result. Just takes 5-6 seconds to finish, and here we are back to fast tone image viewer, and that's what we have. Well, first of all, let's check the noise. That is it, and you can clearly see the noise, the base noise, what is in the sky in that raw view. And here we have the DxO processed picture. I would especially call attention to the details of this lamp, the light, which is absolutely noiseless, but at the same time very sharp, very beautifully rendered. Also the little lights on the tree, and at the same time the sky is noiseless. So that's the capability of Photolab 8. All right, let's move on, and now I'm going to show you the other new program of DxO, and this is the Viewpoint 5. Viewpoint, of course, it's the 5th generation, and it's been also developing together with other functions of Photolab. Viewpoint obviously is used to fix the geometry of pictures. It's a plugin. I can start it from fast on image viewer, which is a very, very great plus. I don't have to go to Photoshop or any other program. That's the JPEG. It looks quite nice, except for the geometry. So now we go to Viewpoint 5. And there are several options. There's the perspective option, which has an auto function, so very easily the program does something with it, and let's see what happens. It looks pretty nice. There's this slider, and you can change the degree of the changes. So you can choose that angle which would be best for you. If I stay on this, then it would be nice to change the aspect ratio, and honestly speaking, I don't remember where it is. Here's a horizontal vertical ratio, so let's see what happens. It nicely gives back the original proportions of the clock. And if we look at the crop, we can still do various things with it. I wouldn't really like to lose this ornament here, so I can, well, first of all, let's use the unconstrained version of the cropping, which gives me total freedom. I'm not sure if I want this little turret. I can make it narrower, and this way I can also include the decorations, and if I really want, and why wouldn't I want, I can go up to the top of these ornaments. And this is what I apply, and I can save it, and it's a very, very beautifully rendered, very attractive picture compared with the original one. So that's one thing what Viewpoint 5 can do. But let me show another function, and with that I'm going to finish this presentation. Yeah, I think everything is perfect except for the geometry. And then we go to Viewpoint 5. Here it is. We can again use the auto function, and probably it would be pretty good. If I give the auto, well, not exactly. It's pretty good down here, but the up is a little bit kind of crooked. So then comes various other possibilities, and the reshape fusion is something very, very interesting. You can choose certain grids, and in my experience, this is the best grid what you can use. And here's a slider which is called propagation. And with that you can regulate the area what you want to achieve by pulling these various parts of the grid. If it's on 0 and you start moving it, you will see that it's only on that box. And as you move it up, it changes into green, and there's the red area which shows the affected area. So if I change this, you can see that this area will be pulled and changed, but not the whole one. Actually, I think that this is pretty much horizontal, which is okay. The problems are somewhere here in the middle. I can go a little bit up with the sensitivity and start pulling it up here, and you can see that already here I have a straight line. This is a little bit too much up, so I will pull it down a bit. But here actually it is going down. It's a very kind of tricky window, and you have to play with it. And I think that it's getting quite all right. So I can say apply. Basically, I'm quite happy with that. So with this little pulling, it's called a reshape fusion, very, very fantastic feature of this program. We can save it. I'm going to show you one more thing. I have to emphasize that I don't use Adobe programs, neither Lightroom nor new Photoshop. I have a very old Photoshop CS6, which I bought originally, and I use it for various purposes. But I use quite a lot the Luminar Neo program, and that has a very good artificial intelligence function to disappear things. So now I have this nice picture. DxO, both Photolab and Viewpoint 5 made a great job, but I would like to disappear these ugly, what are these, electric wires. So I go to Luminar Neo. If somebody doesn't know it, it should be a good introduction, although of course I'm not going to the details of how to handle Luminar Neo. So immediately I go to the artificial intelligence section. Here's my picture, and I want to generate arrays. We have a menu down here with a very simple kind of select and deselect function. So I will select this, and the secret of artificial intelligence delete or whatever is that you shouldn't have too big areas, because then the program won't handle it. So I will do it step by step. First of all, I erase the first cable. The actual work is done in the cloud. So when you have this kind of pretty looking star system somewhere in a computer, the work is done and the first wire has disappeared. So I can reset this the selection and go to the second one. Something like this. Here it is, disappeared, reset selection, and we are done. And now I export it, and here we are done. Back to Fastone Image Viewer. This was the original raw file, and this is the one which was done with DxO, and the last step was with Luminar Neo, making those wires disappear. That's the job we have completed. I think it should be satisfactory for anybody who likes photo editing. Nothing brutal. We haven't changed really the sense of pictures, but we managed to enhance them, and of course the translation from RAW to JPEG has been very, very satisfactory. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope that in some aspects it was useful for those who watch it, and please keep with my channel, subscribe to it, or even give me a like if you liked it. Bye-bye.